Already. System. So I read Tracy's notes on what I was going to be speaking on and about how to use AI and everything. And I thought about it long and hard and actually decided to change tack this time a little bit. When I realized that although people are using AI to create their adverts, it's actually the message that they're getting wrong. And about a year ago, when only one or two people were using AI, that AI was standing out. Now everyone's using the same stuff anyway. So once again, we find ourselves in this kind of clutter. Once again, we're like a needle in a haystack in a field of haystacks. It's just getting harder and harder and harder for people to hear, see, and enjoy our message. And I thought to myself, there's got to be more to it. And that's what we're going to speak about today, something called the super system. And it's more about how to build a reputation and things that people can talk about. So let me just get started with the presentation. Basically, I am Mike Said from Mike Said What. Most of you have my contact details. If you don't, I'll just post a link just now to my website and my phone number. You're more than welcome to WhatsApp me. And as always, please no voice notes. I just don't listen to them. So you can send a voice note, just please don't expect me to listen to it. I think that's maybe the difference. Okay, so what I want to do with the super system is I'm actually going to take you through some things that have happened in my own life over the last 6 months, where I decided kind of out of the blue to turn my whole life around. I packed everything I own into a trailer, drove down to Mossel Bay, where I started a small food cart called Steak by Real and Rustic. When I set out to do this, one of my objectives was I was going to take everything that I'd been teaching in the last 20 years, whether it's about restaurants or marketing, and I was going to put it into place. And I was going to put it into action to see what worked and what didn't work, and whether or not I'd been speaking total rubbish to all of you for the last 20 years, or in fact, I had an inkling of what I was doing and I could make it work for myself. So a lot of the examples you're going to hear now are going to be about my adventures over the last 6 months and real life experiences. The idea is not to make me look like some marketing genius, because I'm certainly not, but to show you that someone with very little resource, and when I say resources, I mean, I don't have a camera crew with me. I don't have a backup team. I certainly don't have big finances. I don't have huge money backing everything that I do. That someone with limited resources could make the most of what they had at that particular moment. What I like to say is that you're welcome to ask questions along the way. Please feel free to put your hand up in the chat or post a question there. Tracy will watch them, and if necessary, she'll interrupt me. And I'm happy for this to be a two-way conversation and not just me lecturing you along the way. Or you can save your questions right for the end, whichever works for each one of you. So the first thing that I found is that most people are confusing marketing with advertising. That's really what I find most of the time. Most small businesses are simply doing what I call advertising. And advertising is what you say. It's the message that you deliver. It's eat this, buy this, do this, come here this. These are my opening times. It's you lecturing the audience all the time about something. I make the best burger. This, that. And the problem with advertising is honestly, it's simply too generic. They all look exactly the same. You're also trying to talk to everyone. So when you put an advert on Facebook and you haven't recognized who your target audience is and you haven't conformed your adverts to them, all you're really doing is just blah, blah, blah. It's like they call it shotgun marketing. It's also not clear on why customers should choose you. So very often it's buy my burger, but not here's the story behind my burger. It's use my coaching service, but not here's why you should use my coaching service. And then there's a real big difference between what people are promising and then what other people are experiencing. That's a huge, huge thing at the moment. So 24-hour plumber who doesn't answer his phone after 7 o'clock in the evening because there's too much trouble should stop calling himself a 24-hour plumber. And it's that kind of thing that happens all the time. And then most importantly, I have people phoning me all the time saying, I'm spending all this money on marketing and advertising, but nobody's seeing me. I feel totally invisible. It's not just that you're invisible, it's that you're forgettable. It's that when people are watching or reading or looking at your advert, there's nothing that stands out for them that makes them remember it. And that's what we're going to talk about today more than anything else, is how to get the marketing that I can do and the marketing that I do, how do I get it to stand out, and how do I get people to understand what I want them to buy from me? And then most importantly, I want them to buy from me. Because in the end, that's really what it's all about. A certain amount of your marketing and your advertising will be brand building, but even that brand building eventually has to turn into sales. So what's marketing? Marketing is what people feel. It's what they remember and what they repeat. That's probably the most important thing to understand right now, is that marketing is about what people repeat about you. So when you do something badly and they're repeating that bad thing about you, they're marketing for you. They're not marketing the way you want them to, but they are marketing for you in every bit of interaction. When someone says, I went along to this restaurant and it wasn't quite the same as it was the time before, or I phoned this plumber and he just didn't arrive on time, or I asked my accountant to do some things for me, and or my lawyer, and every time I do something, they send me an email. When people are repeating that about you, that's a real problem for you because they're doing incredible marketing for you, but also incredible damage. So what you want to try and do is make sure that what they market, what they feel, what they remember, what they repeat is what you want them to say all the time. And marketing is all about changing perception. That's something, if I can get that into your head right now, the people out there right now think something about you and you want them to think something else. So for example, number one is that they might not think about you at all because they don't know you even exist. So there's a whole channel of marketing for people who don't even know you exist. Now, I'll sit with someone, I'll say, so what are you doing for all the people who don't know you exist? And they'll go, well, I built a website. So, well, how are they going to get your website if they don't know you exist? So even website is kind of step number two. You can only send people to a website who already know you exist. The way you talk to people who don't know you exist is by creating paid adverts, appearing places where you haven't been before, doing some advertorial with a local publication, getting on a podcast with someone. That's how you become known when you don't know it all. But anyway, so another perception might be, my clients think I'm very expensive. Now you want to create a perception where it's not about the expense, it's about the value that you give. Because expense is always relative. I'm always amazed when I see someone on Facebook doing a Facebook marketing place and they'll say, need a tiler for my bathroom, mustn't charge an arm and a leg. Now, your arm and a leg is completely different to someone else's arm and a leg. That's always an interesting thing. So value and perception are very, very different things. And I want you to start working on changing some perceptions about your business that people understand what you do, how you do it, and the value and the relief that you bring to them. And marketing is not the icing on the cake. It's not the last thing you do. It's not how the cake looks at the end. That's a visual interpretation. What marketing actually is, it's the smell of the cake while it's baking. It's getting people to understand what you do, the passion you have for it, the love you have for it, and getting them to buy into that, getting them to smell the onions while you. We used to grill onions all the time in our little food cart because we know that smell of onions just brings people. They'd come into the car park and say, what's that? I can smell something. So although this is a literal use of the word smell, it is just one of the things that we would do all the time. And you need to get into the habit of understanding, what am I selling to customers? How am I going to get them to believe in me and believe in my business and believe in what I do? And in order to do that, first of all, you have to believe in you. You have to believe in your business, and you have to believe in what you do. Small business owners often feel invisible or forgotten because they focus on the ads instead of the experience. So they'll take this time to write an advert, and unfortunately, most of them are really bad. They've got too much copy on them, too much information, no hierarchy. And we've been through this when I've done my Canva design courses, where you look at something on the screen, you don't know what to look at. Have a look at something I'm doing let me just go back to. Notice that what I'm doing is, even while I'm talking to you with this presentation, I'm only letting you really read one line at a time. I'm not placing everything in front of you. Even as I go down to the next line, I'm blurring out the line above, which I don't want you to do, because I want you to concentrate on something very specific at that particular moment, which would then be backed up by what I say to you. Now, your marketing has to do the same thing. Your marketing has to choose something very specific and speak about that thing. If I put the whole page out in front of you, people will be reading ahead of me, other people will be getting bored, some people will already be finished reading and waiting for me to get to the next slide. But I'm forcing you to concentrate. I'm marketing to you. I'm making you concentrate on what I want you to concentrate on that particular moment. And that's where your marketing becomes even more important. So how do we do this? And this is something called the super system. I was listening to a podcast about a year or two ago, and I heard a woman talking about the super system, and I decided that I could create the super system for small business owners as well. First of all, it's about having a story. That's really what it is. Second step, the U is understanding the customer, not the customer understanding you. The customer understanding you is in the story. You understanding the customer is such an important part of it. You need to understand who your customer is, what drives them emotionally, what drives them financially, everything about it. Then you need to personalize the experience for them. Make them believe that this offer, this thing that you do is just for them, that you're not simply a commodity that everyone can take off the shelf, even if you're a commodity that people can take off the shelf. If you make them believe it's for them. Now, this morning in gym, I'm listening to a podcast called Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, and Coca-Cola was really struggling. They just there was a younger generation that just weren't buying Coca-Cola. And little do you, I don't know if you guys remember those tins with your names on them, all the different names on them. That actually started in Australia. Where what they took in Australia is they took, I think, something like 1,000 or 3,000 most popular names in Australia, and they put them onto the tins and bottles. And sales absolutely exploded as people they searched the Coke fridges for their name and started collecting. Then they searched for their families' names. And they weren't even drinking those ones. Those ones they were saving and keeping, then they'd buy another one to drink. And a whole new generation of Coca-Cola drinkers were introduced to Coca-Cola for better or worse. So before anyone posts there that Coca-Cola is bad for you, I understand that. But for better or worse, Coca-Cola, by personalizing the experience of you buying a Coca-Cola commodity, completely changed the market. It was worth billions and billions of dollars now. Remember, they rolled them out in South Africa. Then they even had these little booths where you could, if you bought 6 Cokes, you could go in and have anything you want as long as it wasn't rude, put on your Coke bottle. So that was an amazing example of a multinational company with a very generic product just being able to personalize the experience for people. And then you also need to exceed expectations. What you promise, you have to in some way exceed it when you come to delivery, whether it's in speed or time or personalization. And personalization is actually the easiest way to exceed expectation. But you need to make sure that they walk away with this feeling of wow, 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 wow. That was even better than I expected. It was even better than the marketing said. Whether it's a handwritten note, whether it's a phone call offers to say thank you, no matter what it is, you have to find a way to exceed customers' expectations, because once you exceed expectations, that is what people speak about over and over and over again. And I can tell you now, I looked at who's on the talk right now. I know there are no multinational companies there. None of us have an unlimited budget. We really don't. We have a very limited budget that we need to make work for us. And the best way to make it work for us is to get other people to do our marketing for us. And that's been done by story, understanding, personalization, exceeding expectations. And the last thing, which is repeat, repeat, repeat. You have to be consistent. You have to be able to do things over and over again at a very, very high. You have to set a high bar and then maintain that high bar all the time. So let's start off with story. So now, when I decided to open Steak by Real and Rustic, it was literally a small little food cart. What I decided to do was put one single 4-seater table outside. It's got a white tablecloth on it. I'll show you some pictures of it a bit later on. And once I did that, I could mark it, come and dine at the world's smallest grill room. It became my kind of catchphrase. And people walk up and say, is this really the world's smallest grill room? And I said to them, well, prove me wrong. We have one table, prove me wrong. And they would just laugh about it. And very often I'd use expressions like that. I'd say to them, come and try the world's greatest steak sandwich. And they said to me, is it really the world's greatest steak sandwich? And I said to them, well, if you don't think it is, don't pay for it afterwards. Not one person, I must have said that to a couple of hundred people. I'd say to them, if this isn't, so we sold steak sandwiches and steaks. But when I spoke about my steak, I'd always say to people, if this isn't one of the best steaks you've ever eaten, please feel free not to pay for it. Now, I was very careful not to say the best, because I don't know whether the guy's eaten 19-year aged Kobe beef, hand massage, fed only on beer in Japan or in Hong Kong on top of some building. So I was very careful about how to make my promise to people. And once again, I can tell you, I never once had a person saying to me, This wasn't worth it, I won't pay. So coming up with a story is a very, very important part of it. If your business has no story, then simply you are a commodity. And especially for small business owners, we have to create a story around what it is we do and what we can do. Now, people don't connect with products. They connect with your struggle. They connect with your values. They connect with your identity. They connect with who you are and how you came to be there at that particular moment. People would love walking up to me to ask me and say to me, why are you here? How did you come up with this idea? Have you been to America? And the conversation would start. And luckily for me, I had a very strong and long backstory. I would tell them that in 1997, I arrived down in George, opened my first restaurant, which I called Real and Rustic. Then I sold it, went back to Joburg, finally decided 25 years later to take the plunge, get back into food, decided to keep the name Real and Rustic. And what's really interesting on the garden route, and I was very, very proud and fortunate to find out that Real and Rustic still had a good name almost 30 years later. But once I found that people could connect with me personally, and they could connect with what I considered my values in the business, it created this really, really strong identity. And you need to do the same. You need to get people to connect with you and not just with what you're selling. It's not about when you started. It's about why you do this. And most importantly, the products that make you angry that you're there to solve. Now, one of the things that I would push all the time is that we were just this little food cart. We're just this unexpected little, we're here about the food. We don't spend money on decor. We don't spend money on fancy equipment. It's myself, it's Blessing, it's a couple of pieces of equipment. It's that bride down there. That was and what we were solving for people is giving them somewhere where they could come and sit in a very relaxed atmosphere and come and just enjoy themselves. And you need to ask yourself, what is this problem that you're solving for customers? Now, my late dad used to always say to me, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. Now, there's a lady or a gentleman out there with a problem, and they've got a problem, and no one is solving that problem for them. If you can solve that problem for them, if you can be the accounting firm that does the thing that they want, if you can be the life coach who understands that particular problem, you can be the plumber who leaves their house neat and tidy afterwards and sends them photographs of work you've done inside the roof. Just think about when you use this, what drives you insane and how you can make it better for your customers. So, for example, a bakery sells comfort and ritual, not just bread. A bakery sells that smell when you walk in and you go, oh, that beautiful smell of fresh bread. The moment you walk in and you smell that fresh bread, and you know that this bakery's up, whatever, that they've been open since 6 o'clock. You can actually see the trays coming out of the ovens. That's what they're selling you, that ritual of freshly baked bread. And someone having to take it off the rack directly or off the hot racks. I love buying bread off the hot racks. It just makes me feel like I'm buying fresher bread, even if it's been sitting on the hot racks for hours. But once I see it sitting on the shelf, and once I see it in a bag, once I see 6 rolls in a bag, I know they're no longer fresh because nobody puts hot, fresh bread into plastic bags. So there's a little secret for you. If you want to buy hot, fresh bread, never buy it in plastic bags. Plumbers represent calm under pressure, not just fixing leaks. You want your plumber to arrive at you and say to you, absolutely no problem, I've got this for you. Not to look and shake his head and say, well, yeah, this is going to cost a lot of money. You're in a lot of trouble. If I have a plumber say that to me, he can take his stuff and he can leave. I want the plumber to say to me, no problem, we've got this. I've got you. We'll have this sorted out. We'll have this cleaned up in no time at all. That's what it is. Restaurants sell belonging and escape. They don't just sell meals. It's not just about the food. I know sometimes you go to a restaurant and you are hungry and you just want to eat and you want to be left alone. But that's a very, very small minority. Most people come into restaurants for the settings, to be spoiled. We can all eat at home. We can buy food at Woolworths. So you need to try and understand, what is your story? What do you want to be known for? And I want you to give some thought to that. I want you to write down your story. At the end of this, I will give you all a workbook that you can go through. You'll be able to go through the workbook very carefully. It will take you through how to create your story, how to do your understanding, just each one of them. But please come up with a story. And now we can shift back quickly to AI. AI is fantastic at writing these stories. If you give AI the background, if you give it the facts, you say, here are the facts. I arrived in George on this day. I then opened that. I then moved to there. I went back to Joburg. Da, 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 da. You give it all the facts, and then you say to it, please create me an emotive story that I can share on my website. And then go and say to it, make it one paragraph long, or give me a long story and then give me a short version. Let if you don't have the imagination for it, and not everyone does, in fact, so few people do have the imagination to write their own story, you can get AI to do that for you. And that's any of the AIs. That's ChatGPT, Grok, Google, Gemini, DeepSeek, Claude. They'll all do it for you. And what you might want to do is try two or three of them at the same time. But start off, like, all you have to do is write down the facts, and you have to know what those facts are. Once you've got the facts, ask AI to write you an emotive story around it. If you don't like the emotive story, rewrite it and rewrite it, because you have to believe your own story if you're going to sell it. And when I say story, I don't mean lies, but there is a way to frame things that just sounds so much more romantic, so much more believable than just the pure facts. The second part is understanding, and that's in understanding your customer and understanding what your customer wants from you. What we did was we created these cards, and these cards say, steak is what we do, but you are why we are here. What we really wanted to do was tell people that this was going to be all about them. This wasn't going to be all about us. And there was a lot we'd do to go there. We'd talk to each one of our customers, ask them what they liked, what they enjoyed, and then we'd do our best to fit them into, or for us to fit in with them and not the other way around. Customers don't buy what matters to you. They buy what matters to them. Now, I know that my steak is 300 grams sirloin, aged to 36 days. I knew the butcher personally. I knew all of that. And I was happy to tell them that once I knew that it mattered to them. So the guy would say to me, what kind of steak do you use? Then I know that that matters to him. How long is it aged? So I wouldn't lead with all of that. I would allow them to tell me what matters to them, and then I would start talking about it. Most businesses talk about their own history. Our customer is asking, can I trust you? Will this make my life better? That's really what they ask me. They just want to know, can I trust you with my money? Can I trust you to deliver on it? And how are you going to improve my life? How are you going to take away my problem? And it's getting to that understanding of your customer that is so, so critical. One of the biggest challenges that I have with small business owners is they simply, first of all, they don't know who their customer is. They can't describe their customer to me. If you can describe your customer in such a way that I can take that customer, run them through a photocopy machine, run off 100 copies, and you'd be rich in a couple of days' time. That's your customer. Then people say to me, but Mike, why would I want to exclude anyone? It's not about excluding anyone. It's about understanding who your primary customer is, because that's where we're going to spend our time and our effort. It was absolutely no use me advertising Steak by Red and Rustic in Johannesburg, except maybe for 1 week, just before the 16th of December. I could maybe market it in Johannesburg, in Pretoria, in the hope that some of the people that were going on holiday might possibly trickle their way down to the garden route. Of that, some of them might make their way all the way to Mossel Bay, and then some of them might actually make their way to me. It was much easier for me to talk to people when they're already in town and they're already there. So going to the caravan park and marketing at the caravan park, marketing on the local Mossel Bay groups became so much more important to me, because that's where my customer base was. So understand that, take the time and trouble to work out who your customer is and understand what it is they want from you and what it is they're buying from you. It's what we sell versus the peace of mind that they feel. If you can sell them this peace of mind, if you can sell them a belief that you're the person who can do this particular job for them, or this particular product, or make this, it doesn't really matter what it is, whether it's a product or a service or you're selling yourself, what we sell, that actual thing is much less important than the peace of mind that they feel when they get it. So that's when we come to understanding. They aren't buying a product. They're buying a relief, a pride, a certainty. They want to walk into your coffee shop with friends and say, come and try this amazing cappuccino. Then we go back to you getting it right. Now you have to deliver that amazing cappuccino. They want to feel like wow, at long last, I found this accountant. At long last, I found this travel agent who understands me. That's when you've got a customer for life, when they believe, and we'll come to that just now when we come to personalizing the experience. If they believe you've done it for them, if they can take pride, if they can be certain in their decision, that makes all the difference. For example, a parent buying school shoes is actually buying one less problem next month. He's buying not having son walk in broken shoes, not having a teacher, them being in trouble. Now, I want you to start writing down your service. Write down what they're really buying. Tell me what customers are buying from you, what peace of mind, what joy, what certainty, what pride, what relief. Make a list of these things. They're going to make a big difference to you a bit later on. The next step was in personalizing the experience. This to me was an extremely important part of it. Every single person that came up to the cart had to believe that the cart had been built just for them, that the sandwich was made just for them, that the flavors were put together just for them. And it's not always easy to do, but I had the advantage of being a two-man business. That's Blessing and myself up there at the cart. Being a two-man business, we were able to personalize the experience for people. One of the things we do is we actually had a lot of customers coming over more than once. They'd come over 3 or 4 times on a week stay. And they'd order kind of the same thing each time. And then the guy would say to me, I think we're coming back tomorrow. And I'd say to them, let me do something different for you tomorrow. And they said to me, what do you mean? I said, let me do a different steak for you. Let me do an espetado. Let me do a picanha. If you just confirm with me that you're coming, I will personally go to the butcher and buy that particular cut for you. And they'd look at me like I was insane. And they said to me, you do that for us? I'd say, with the greatest of pleasure, we'll do that for you. Another thing we used to do is, even if we closed, we'd literally have closed the cart. When someone would drive up and say, oh, I'm so sorry I missed you. And we'd say, what do you mean you missed us? You didn't miss us. And we'd reopen the whole business, even if it was for one steak sandwich. I would tell my customers that anytime they liked, they could phone me. If I was lying on my bed at home watching sport, I'd get off my bed, put on my shoes, come down to the cart and open it just for them. And there were a few people who took me up on it. There are a few people who loved the idea. And they'd phone me and they'd say to me, geez, we're 6 of us. We've just come off the golf course. Any chance of a steak? I'd say, no problem. Give me 15 minutes and I'll meet you there. And I'd literally go down and open for them. And they would feel like they owed me the world. And all I really wanted from them was to tell everyone else what I was doing. So the ability to personalize the experience for people is one of the most important things you can do. Big companies automate, small businesses humanize. I want you to start learning how to humanize your business. How can you make it part of what you do? How can you make it part of your customer's life and experience? Because once you've got that, I promise you've got these people for life. Small businesses, we can be warmer, we can be faster, we can be more flexible, we can be much more observant. We get to build local relationships like nobody else can. Even the big restaurants and the brands in town cannot match what one owner sitting behind his till talking to every customer face to face can do. Of course, this then prevents scaling. By the time you get to scaling, you have to teach someone else to do it. It's not that it can't be done, and maybe it'll be what's the word I'm looking for? Like watered down slightly, but you have the opportunity. I'm speaking to a group of business owners here and potential business owners here. Be warmer, be faster, be more flexible, be more observant. Watch what people are doing. Watch how they react to things. Watch how they leave things, how they walk out of your business. People are telling you so much more with their body language and with their words, and but we're so busy focused on trying to make the sale, trying to make the sale, trying to make the sale, that we're missing all the signals that people are giving us. People forget what you sold them, but they will never, ever forget how you treated them and what you did for them specifically. That is something that they will never, ever forget. They will talk about it for years to come. I'll always remember when I still had Real and Rustic here in George, a guy by the name of Herman Mayer. He was a regular customer. He used to come and eat. Sometimes he'd bring his wife, often he'd bring his wife with him, he'd bring his son with him, and his daughter and his son-in-law. Always, they're really great supporters of mine. And one day he walked into the restaurant, he put his arm around me and he said to me, Mike, I want to tell you why I keep coming back to your restaurant. Now, I'm expecting him to tell me, you make the best steaks, you got the best prices. I'm thinking commodity and everything like that. And he says to me, Mike, as I walk in the door, you make me feel like the most important human being in the world. Then he said, I know you do that for everyone else as well, but I pretend you don't. And those words really stuck with me. It really, because it made me realize that I was doing what I set out to do, which was to make each person, no matter who they were, feel like at that particular moment, they were important to me. Now, I train a lot of wait staff. And the first thing I tell them is that when you're talking to a customer, talk directly to that customer. Focus on that one person at that particular moment. You can move your gaze away from them afterwards as someone else at the table. You can turn to someone else. You can think, but while speaking to that customer, make them the single most important person or thing in the universe. And if you can start doing that with your customers, make your customer feel at that particular moment like they are the most important person in the world, you once again will have a customer for life. And not only that, you will have a marketing evangelist. You'll have someone walking around telling everyone how fantastic you are and how incredible you are at what you do, no matter what that is that you do. So I want you to start finding ways that you can personalize what you do for your customers. Write things down, make little notes, anything that works for you. Use your size to be warmer, faster, and more observant. This is an opportunity we have when we're small that you simply don't have later on. You really don't. And I'm assuming that you do want to be bigger. You do want to be better. You do want to have more outlets, a bigger company. Don't let that disappear completely. But remember, right now is the time, while you're small, to be that something absolutely incredible. Now, I'm from the hospitality industry, and I talk a lot about the difference between service and hospitality. I really believe that hospitality is the number one thing that's not taught at business school that really should be. If you want to grow your business, and I don't care what your business is, understand service versus hospitality. If you can get that right, if you can get service versus hospitality right, and you can start delivering hospitality in every single thing that you do, no matter what your business is, you will watch it fly. If a customer feels that I am on their side, that's hospitality. In other words, I am taking their side. I'm the one who's going to step up for them. I'm the one who's going to solve their problem for them. That's hospitality. If they feel like I've done something just for them, that's hospitality. If I've gone out of my way, if I say to them, give me a second, I am going to go into the kitchen and sort out your dish for you. If I say to them, I understand your frustration. Let me tell you about a frustration that I'm having right now. I've recently moved to George, and at the beginning of the month, I joined the Planet Fitness here. Really a great gym. In fact, the last time I was in Planet Fitness, that particular branch, it wasn't Planet Fitness, it was actually called Health and Racket back in about 1999 when I was in George. So it was really nice to go back to the same gym. They were kind enough to give me a really good rate, and they even phoned me and told me, don't join until April the 1st, because we're having a special on April 1st where we're waiving the joining fee. So it was really nice of them, saved me 750 Rand. I'm all excited. Off I go, I join the gym. They give me my tag. I walk in the first day with my tag. The gate doesn't open. Why doesn't the gate open? Because head office forgot to program the fact that my joining fee is free, so it looks like I still owe a joining fee. They apologized, they let me in. Day 2, the same thing. Day 3, the same thing. Day 4, the same thing. By day 7, I go to them and I said to them, this is ridiculous. I'm standing here. Why doesn't it's about someone pushing one button. Could someone please get on the phone to head office and not get off the phone until it's done? Yes, no problem, it'll be done. Day 11, day 12 goes by. Today, what's today's date? Today's day 13. Today, I walk in. I go into the general manager's office where she's in front of her computer. I say, hi, good morning. It's me again for the 13th day in a row. I'm stuck waiting at the gate to be let in. And she looks at me and says to me, yes, I'm aware of it. I'm sorry about that. As soon as I finish my tasks, I will get onto it. Now, at that moment, she had a particular opportunity to say to me, don't worry, Mr. Said, I'll do that right away. Even if when I walked out, she finished her tasks. It's when she said to me that her tasks that she needed to do were more important than me standing at the gate for 13 minutes, it left me with a very uneasy feeling. It was such a simple thing that she could have done. Anyway, So if I feel understood and remembered, that's hospitality. This morning, I don't feel understood, but I am remembered because I'm the guy who keeps complaining at the gate every time I get to the door there. But try and look at these things and say to yourself, what can I do to make my customers believe that I'm on their side? What can I make them believe that I did something specially just for them? How can I make them feel understood? Because that's what hospitality is. Service is a technical delivery of a product. Hospitality is how that delivery and that product makes people feel. It's I can't explain to you how important that is. And if you want to grow your small business, grow it around how you make people feel, and you will notice the difference. And then we come to the E, and the E is exceeding expectations. And that's not a very easy thing to do. It's not easy to exceed expectations all the time, because if I exceed expectations on your first visit, what am I going to do on your second visit to exceed them even more? So one has to believe that there's a ceiling to how often I can exceed expectations. But that doesn't mean I can't surprise you with something a little bit different all the time. And the really great businesses are the ones that exceed expectations. Now, one of the things that we were really lucky about is that we started collecting Google reviews really early. I would say to, and I made it very easy for them. There were NFC tags, those little near field communication tags, so they could just swipe their phones. There were lots of QR codes all over things. And I would always say to people, we would love a 5-star review. I never said they would love a review. You can see it there in the bottom of the thing that says there, rate us on Google. We would love a 5-star review. So I'm placing already in my head what I want from there. And we were able to collect 108 5-star reviews. Now, I thought, that's just great for my ego. It turns out it was exceptionally good for business, because as soon as a tourist, particularly international tourists, arrive in town, the first thing they search for is the highly rated restaurants in town. So they would come across this and they would walk around the corner to my little steak cart, literally with their phone in their hand, and they'd look up at me and say to me, is this the place? Because it wasn't what they were expecting. They were expecting a restaurant. And now they were expecting, something that's got 108 5-star reviews. They're expecting fine dining. They just were not expecting this little food cart. But once they'd tasted the food, once they'd experienced the experience that we gave them, they were quickly became evangelists and did that for us. A satisfied customer is good. A pleasantly surprised customer is powerful. And I'll show you where they're right about that. This specific thing about being surprised by what they were given and how much difference it made to them. Exceeding expectations creates great stories worth retelling. That's what it is. Remember, I go back to, we want our customers to tell stories about us all the time. We want them to share our experiences with them. We want them to be so blown away that they have to do this all the time. Now, my next story is quite an interesting one, so I'll give you a little bit of background. We're getting a lot of tourists coming through all the time. They're walking in with their phones. And one weekend, from the Thursday to the Saturday, I noticed that we have an unbelievable amount of Chinese people coming to the restaurant. Little steak restaurant, nothing Chinese about it, nothing Oriental about it, but all day long, 2-seaters, 4-seaters, 6-seaters, Chinese people are walking up to the restaurant. And I'm assuming that there must be a cruise ship in town, but cruise ships don't stay for more than one day, and it's now been about 3 days. And Saturday evening, about 6 o'clock, we're busy closing up when my phone rings. A Chinese woman says to me, are you open? I said, please come along. We will be open for you. It'll take us 5 minutes to open. She says, once again, she gives me the really, you'll open just for me. And I go, yes, we will. And she sits down and I say to her, I need to ask you a question. May I ask you why you are here? And she said, what do you mean? I said, why have you chosen my restaurant? Because we have noticed an unbelievable amount of Chinese people over the last 3 days. And she looked at me and she said to me, have you heard of Red Note? And I said, no, what's Red Note? She said, Red Note is Chinese Instagram. And a woman that came here on Thursday morning posted a post on Chinese Instagram. And we are trending on Chinese Instagram. And basically what she says is, on South Africa's garden route, I found ribs that were unbelievably good. We're doing a self-drive trip along the garden route to Mossel Bay and randomly searched for a nearby rib place with almost perfect ratings. Once again, they did that search. They found us because of our high rating. We had no expectations at all because they arrive and they see this little food cart, but ordered a 700-gram beef rib. It's actually not a sandwich, it's a beef rib. After the first bite, everyone's expressions changed. That sweet, gentle look like you suddenly have love for everything. How can something be this tender, juicy, and instantly aromatic? Couldn't resist adding another 300-gram grilled sirloin and kept eating to heart's content. Right now, the shop is a small little window-style takeaway spot set in a small little town with a kind of vintage seaside feel. The owner, a 60-year-old man, he said what he enjoys most is seeing people search all over for his little place. They would literally, because they were looking for a restaurant, they'd come in holding with them. And he told us that they'd be open for 4 months and they're about to move to the place next door. Actually, we're moving to the town next door, and I'm now in Georgia. I've opened a much bigger restaurant and I've opened a steak restaurant as well. We are truly grateful. This little shop and generous portions gave us the best meal of the trip, hands down. I cannot tell you how much business this this moment of exceeding customers' expectations brought me. That to this day, the other night, I had a customer phone me in a Chinese accent to say, "We are standing at your food cart and you closed." I said, "I'm so sorry. I have put it on Google. We are temporarily closed. We open in George." She said to me, "Are you open in George yet?" I said, "We're actually not. We're a couple of days from opening, but I have all the steaks. I have everything. If you want, you can drive through." And they drove through the 50 kilometers to eat with me. And other people have done the same thing. So this your ability to exceed expectations and give customers an opportunity to speak about something is incredible. And it's not about giving away the farm. You don't have to give everything away. That's not how you exceed expectations. You don't exceed expectations by making yourself broke. You exceed expectations by doing simple little things. By doing things that make a difference in people's lives, by solving a problem before people have to ask you twice. That's how you do it. One of the things we did, here's another little example. We had a group of French people one day come for lunch. The next day, they brought a whole lot more people, and they ended up being a table of about 15. It turns out that they were around the world sailors on single, what they call them, I suppose, what would you call it? Individual, only one-man craft. And they were sailing around the world, stopping all over. And what they did is they told me they were leaving the next day, and because they enjoyed the steak so much, they'd like to come and pick up steak sandwiches before they leave the next morning. No problem. I quickly went to the printing shop and I had these cards printed. Safe travel, sailor. Thank you for stopping and sharing a meal with us. Before you set sail again, we're honored to fuel a small part of your journey. May the wind stay steady, the sea stay kind, and may the steak sandwich hit the spot when you need it most. Wishing you strength and courage and safe passage until our paths cross again. Mike and blessing, steak by Red and Rustic, the team. Now, by the way, Google wrote that for me. I told Google more or less what I wanted to say, and I asked it to put me in a poetic thing. Those little cards maybe cost me R1 each, maybe even R2 each. We wrapped up the sandwiches really nice, and we put them on there. And then we just watched the internet as these same sailors, wherever they were, made reference and a thank you to us. And it was such a simple little thing that took almost no trouble, but even the trouble that it took, we were so excited to do it. So I want you to start looking at ways that you can exceed your customers' expectations and not sit there going, "Oh, another customer, oh, I have to do another thing." And then finally, the R, repeat, 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 repeat. You have to do the same good thing over and over and over again. Now, one of the most consistent businesses in this country is Wimpy. Whether you think it's consistently good or consistently bad, some people absolutely love it, other people, the fact that they're so consistent means that when I'm driving somewhere and I see a Wimpy, I will go into the Wimpy and not to some unknown name, because I can trust the Wimpy. I know that I'm going to get a toasted sandwich. I know it's going to be made on government bread and it's going to have 2 slices of cheddar cheese on it. And I know it's going to come with 8.5 chips. But it's the fact that I know is what makes me confident to go back there. I know exactly what the burgers, I know what the chips, I know what the milkshake's going to be. You need to build that consistency. You have to be able to repeat this thing over and over again, because consistency is what turns a nice moment into a trusted brand. It's no use if they arrive on day 1 and I completely blow them away. They arrive on day 2, I'm not in the same mood, I don't have the same energy about me, and I allow this thing to slip even slightly. Because then what they're saying is a little light goes up, a little red warning light goes up in the back of the customer's mind, and they say to themselves, ah, this is not the same. Something's not quite the same. The other day, I got an almost five-star review. I bought a restaurant now in George called The Fat Fish. I'll tell you a little bit about that just now. And a customer wrote a comment. Now, I've only had it for a month, so I'm still working a lot on things. And his comment was, what a fantastic meal, a great service, but the food wasn't quite as good as I remembered. And that really hurt me. I just wasn't quite as good as I remembered. It meant that something had slipped. He had arrived here with an expectation that we hadn't met, and we were unable to repeat what he'd had before. And I can't tell you how important consistency is. Customers trust patterns, not accidents. They really do. They want to see a pattern. And as I said, one of the things that we really did pride ourselves on was if every customer says the same positive thing about you, your brand becomes powerful. If you search for Steak by Real and Rustic, you will see that we have 108 reviews. Everyone, in fact, we have 107 five-star reviews and one four-star review. I still want to reach through the phone, grab that woman, and ask her why she only gave me 4 stars, but unfortunately you can't do that. I just had to say thank you. And we pride ourselves on getting people to say the same thing. They must say how good the food was. They must say how friendly we are. They must say how incredible the service was. Those are things that we want customers to repeat over and over and over again. Because you don't build a brand in one big moment. You build your brand, you build your business through tiny little moments that you repeat over and over and over again. Doing ordinary things so well, so often that people cannot help but talk about you. And that's why, despite me not telling you exactly what to say in your advert, and despite me not telling you how to do your advert, I am telling you that in the super system is your whole marketing philosophy has to come out of the super system. How are you going to do it? Where you're going to place the adverts? That kind of becomes secondary. It really does. What's important right now is that you're delivering the right message and the right service to the right people. And nothing is worth more than that to you. Nothing is worth more than other people telling other people about you and sending them to you, and then you meeting and repeating that expectation over and over again. So let's go over that again. You don't build your brand or your business in one big moment. You build it through these small moments that are repeated over and over. And I should have put in the word repeated great moments or good moments, because you can't repeat bad moments, because that's how you kill a business. And all the businesses that have died, it's because they slowly repeated some little small thing over and over again. I see people, a restaurant closing down on Facebook, and people, oh, that's so sad. It was my favorite restaurant. Then I'll ask them, well, when last were you there? Oh, no, I haven't been there for a couple of years. Oh, why not? Oh, well, sometimes the quality would slip slightly. Well, there it is. Businesses don't close down because of bad luck, unfortunately. Maybe one does. Maybe someone builds a road in front of you and the road closes your business for a year. I'm not taking away from that. There are external factors as well. But very often, most reasons why a business does or doesn't succeed can be traced down to the attitude of the owner, the attitude of the management, and the attitude of the staff. So doing ordinary things so well, so often that people cannot help but talk about you is the best marketing advice that I can give any business right now. And as I come to the end of my talk, and before I open it up to questions, I'm going to tell you all to go out there and be unforgettable. I have already sent Tracy a small little workbook. It's something for you. She has my presentation. She will send the presentation to you. She'll send the workbook to you. The workbook quite simply takes you through everything: how to write your story, just a couple of questions, how to write some stuff about understanding your customer, how to personalize the experience, how to exceed expectations, and how to do the repeat. And this little document, and don't be scared to use AI. Go put those questions into AI, write your answers into AI, ask AI to help you understand what you've missed out on, where you've asked. You'll be amazed what it can do for you, but you have to ask the right questions, and you have to be willing to make the changes it takes to grow a great business. So with that, I'm going to open it now to the floor for some questions. I see there are about 6 comments. I don't know if I should read them, or if Tracy would like to come in and tell me some of the questions for me. Hello? Sorry. Hi. Okay, let's start off with Joshua Davis. How do you go from clients choosing you as the cheap option and rather have them choosing you for your unique service or style? First of all, I would say you have to know that there is a style about you. There has to be something unique about you. Very often, small business owners think they're unique, but really all they're doing is copying someone else. So take the time to write down what you honestly believe makes you unique. It's such an important part of it. In my days at Mug and Bean, I was the marketing manager for Mug and Bean, and we served bottomless coffee and those really big muffins. Everyone remembers that. And one of the things that we could never ever understand is that neither of those things could be patented. Anybody else could have done them, yet nobody was. People were watching Mug and Bean grow around their bottomless coffee and their giant portions, and nobody was copying us. So something that shouldn't have been unique to Mug and Bean remained unique to Mug and Bean for years and years and years until people did start copying it. Then we had to start looking for other unique things. So you have to give them the reason to believe in you. You have to show them your unique side of you, because very often customers miss that. They don't understand that. They do believe they're just getting a commodity. So one of the things we would do, for example, is every single day on the fridge behind us were boards which said exactly which cut of meat we were using and how many days they had been aged. And we would change that on a regular. It would be ribeye, it was aged 28 days. If you came back 2 days later, it might say ribeye aged 36 days. It was and customers then believed that we cared about our quality of our meat. And if we cared, then they cared. So you have to create this thing where people believe that you care about them and they will start choosing you over price. Slide deck.
That makes a lot of sense.
Sorry?
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So first of all, identify what it is that makes you unique and then find a way to get that across to customers. Don't leave it at that I've created this thing and they're going to guess. You have to tell them why you're unique. That's part of the marketing. That's part of the advertising, is not being too shy to tell them. Honestly, we forever used to call ourselves the world's greatest steak sandwich. And when people would say to me, how can you be? I'd say, well, prove me wrong. Go eat them all. And then they'd laugh and giggle, but it was through my confidence. Then I'd often say to them, if it isn't one of the best meals you've ever eaten, please don't pay for it. And the guys would walk up afterwards with their money and they'd say, I'm here to pay. I say, I assume it was good enough. And you guys, 100%, love it. Can't understand how you get the steak so tender. And then I would literally tell them, I would sit there and explain my cooking process to them from start to finish. And then the guy would sit and say, you go to that much trouble just to make the steak sandwich? I'd say, yes, not only that, I handpick the buns. And they would walk away, not that they had my recipe. No one was going to go and open a steak parting competition with me. They weren't going to stay home and cook the steak the way I taught them, although I was very happy to teach it to them. We would even give them the spice that we cooked with. We had little samples of our spice. And I'd say to the guy, just to remember me next time, here's a spice to put on your steak. And here's how to cook it. And to them, that was something truly unique, this interaction and the personalization that I would have with them. And I learned that day that this is what business has become and what it's all about. Any other questions? Sorry, thank you. Lots of important stuff. Looking forward to slide deck. That's coming. Presentation. Thank you, Peter. Much appreciated. Any other questions before I sign off?
I absolutely